Well, good afternoon, friends. This is Mindie Molina, and you're listening to the Mindie Molina Show live. And like we just said, 772-221-1100. You can call us in and ask us any questions you'd like, or even share a story. Today, I have in the studio with me someone super special, my longtime client and friend, Betty, and she is going to be sharing her story of retirement with us and really focusing on learning what she's learned through retirement and how she can, influence the lives of others that are going to be going into retirement or maybe are experiencing some of the things that she's experienced over the years. So I'll start with a little prayer. I'm going to get Betty here. You can also find us on Facebook Live if for some reason you're not able to stick out the whole show for the next hour. And then you can also find me on MindieMolina.com. It's Mindie with an I-E, Molina. We have Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, podcast, and you can also watch the show on our Facebook, like I said, or on YouTube. So let's get started with a little prayer. And I'm just going to ask the Lord, if you want to bow your heads with us. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day, this beautiful, wonderful day, and this amazing life that you've blessed us with. And we just ask you to bless our hearts and our words tonight as we are able to deliver Betty's story and all of the goodness that comes along with it and the joy that God's blessed her with, even through trials and tribulations. And we're just so grateful for that. And we thank you for having her here with us tonight. And we just say in Jesus' name, thank you so much. Betty.
Amen.
Amen. So I'm going to start by just saying, how long have you actually been retired?
Carl actually retired when he was 70, which was in 99, I think. No, not quite that. No, it was in 11. And we look forward to a long time of spending time together, and we both worked very hard, and he thought this is what we were going to do. I was raised in the time where you stayed home, and luckily there were times I worked full time, and he had 3 jobs, and we were able to save and give our kids a good life. And unfortunately, he died in 2020 it was, and I was left a widow, going to take care of me and the family. And when it came to the point where, okay, now what do I do? In the we did travel for a couple of years, and were able to go here, there, and everywhere, and visit family and everything. And then when he started getting Alzheimer's, things changed drastically. And I had him at home for a long time, and it got to the point I have people at night stay so I could sleep. And finally my kids came and said, Mom, we don't want to lose you too. So we searched around and found a nice nursing home for him. I did go every day, feed him his dinner and lunch, take him outside and everything. And but it was expensive.
Yeah, very expensive.
Thank God he had made arrangements for long-term care through an annuity, which when he knew he was having a problem, he found Mindie and a good attorney and a good accountant. He was very specific about what he wanted. And with a good team, he was able to set up an annuity that I was able to draw on to pay for his nursing home for 2.5 years. And that pretty much covered everything.
Yeah.
And it was, wonderful. Now I have enough that, I'm pretty careful what I spend my money on the money that we were able to save. But he worked hard for it, and I'm the benefit of it. It really was a blessing.
Yes.
So, but
How did you and Carl meet?
actually met at a church dance.
Yeah.
We both grew up in Queens, New York, and a bunch of us would go to these church dances, and my girlfriend was boyfriend with with one of his friends, and they insisted Carl take me home that night. And
Yeah.
from there it's history. We dated for 5 years. I was only 17.
Oh, I was gonna say that's a long time to
Yeah.
date. How long how long were you married?
We were married 57 years
Yeah.
now, so it was a long time.
And how many kids?
3 kids.
3 kids.
Yeah, they're all in their 50s now.
Yeah.
My son Eric turned 50, and he said, "How does it feel to have your baby turn 50?" I said,
Right.
how can that be? I'm only 39. We have 8 grandkids, and I'm blessed that my 2 sons are down here in Florida, one in Fort Myers and one in St. Lucie with their families.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter's in Pennsylvania, and she gets down here as often as she can. We're always on the phone. They were always checking up on me. Mom, you should be doing this. I said, since when did the kids become the parent?
I hear that. Yes, it does. There is a transition.
Yeah, but
I think it's once they start approaching their retirement years,
yeah.
then they become the experts. You know.
No.
But I hear that a lot. That's good. That's
How did
normal.
you
That
and
means they
Dad- how
care.
did you and Dad do it?
It-
Unfortunately, times have changed terribly right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep telling him, you've got to save, you've got to save. And I don't know how young people do it anymore. It's really,
It's definitely challenging.
it is.
Yeah.
But,
So, I'm going to tell a little bit about how you and Carl came into my life. And I'll turn this around. So, Carl and Betty were 2 of my first clients when I decided to go on my own. Actually, they helped me decide to go on my own. They were very confident in my abilities, and it was awesome because Carl came from the business himself, right?
he started out as an accountant and didn't like that so much, and went back to school and became an insurance agent. Ended up buying his own agency and built it from there. He had an agency on Long Island. It was really a blessing to him.
Yes, he did very well.
He did very well. He was, and he said the insurance industry changed when he was getting ready to retire because it was a person-to-person thing, and it's gotten to be telephone,
Yes.
internet type thing nowadays. You really don't.
Yeah,
get
we're
to
moving
meet.
into a virtual world.
Yeah.
Just like now. Hi, everybody's can watch online
Right.
and learn online. We learn so much
Yeah, but,
from
he
from
never
that.
advertised, but it was all word of mouth, and he built up that way. It was wonderful. I did work in his office until we moved further out on Long Island, and they got the.
Yeah, that's right. You did work with him for years.
Yeah, they did. So the kids would go to school. I'd go into his office, do work with the girls that he had hired, and when it was time for me to pick them up from school, that's when I left. So
Yeah.
it really was, a teamwork after a while.
So I came and visited you, and I think it was about Medicare. There was it was something offbeat with what we ended up doing together as a team, but I do remember that I was new to the insurance world, and Carl obviously was not, but it was right after the crash of '08. And by then you all were well into retirement at that point. And he was not okay with how things were. He seemed to be frustrated with his advisor at the time, not getting the callbacks or the attention that he wanted. But I remember sitting at that little kitchen table, that little nook in your kitchen, at like 9 a.m. over coffee, and him just telling me I have to do something different. And we started the conversation, And he really led the way because he had all the experience at the time. And he honestly taught me so much going through what his new moves were going to be. But at the time, he was, you know, the retirement strategy that he had was primarily market based.
Right.
And then this stress and really, I mean, the man loved you so much. His wifey, as he always liked to say. And he was adamant about making sure that you were going to be okay.
Right.
And I think that was part of the reason, but also having this weight of having such a tremendous loss and in the market and not having that security, and with his knowledge and his experience, he knew that it didn't have to be that way.
Right.
And I think that's where my journey began, and my journey in retirement planning really began with Carl. And so I'm so grateful for him because he was my mentor with his own account.
He would be very pleased to hear that.
He was such a powerful influence in my life, and really just a godsend. You both were. And so we continued the planning with Banker's Life at the time. And then once we got to the point that we realized they didn't have the structure that maybe we could get elsewhere, that became a push of me going independent. And he held my hand through that and really encouraged me and basically said, you know, you do it and I'll be your client. I'll be your first client. And that was it. And so it's all been history since.
That's right.
And those plans that we put into place, I'll never forget, because Carl was so fun and so wonderful and just a joy to be around.
You don't have to tell
Big
me.
personality, yeah. Yeah, we loved him. He was so fun and easy to work with, but brilliant and full of experience and knowledge, and really did guide us. I would go find all the tools because I was more familiar with the new worlds of what was available, and then he would help me figure out which ones were going to be the best. So we come up with this amazing strategy, and that for me was unique from what was typical in retirement, but then ended up showing me just how amazing it could be, because I'll never forget where I was and what I was doing the day that I got your phone call about the Alzheimer's and the expense and the cost and the having to go into home health care, doing the nursing home cost. And when I called and got the quotes about what the annuity was going to double up to, it was like almost on the penny of what
I needed it.
you needed. And I was just like, wow, that is the power of God.
That's right. It's true.
And it was just such a like movement in my life to where I said, this is what I'm called to do. I know that. And I know that me aligning with you and Carl was just a pivot to be able to create what I've created now. That was the new beginning, and it was also amazing to me because it taught me so much. Like, I learned how to do through Carl and his journey and your journey in retirement, how to prepare others for that. And now I can take that legacy and go with it.
God works in mysterious ways.
He always has, for sure. And I'd like to kind of dive a little more into what some of those strategies were. But first, I want to remind everyone this is a live show, and you can call in and ask questions about any of the topics that Betty and I are discussing, but you can also share your story if you've been there. And it's 772-221-1100. 772-221-1100. You can also go online, mindiemolina.com. Google my name, you'll find us, and you can watch this live on Facebook or YouTube as well. So, Betty, tell me a little bit about the beginning years of your retirement with Carl when you were both healthy and everything was good.
We didn't splurge, but he has relatives in Europe and Germany, and he wanted to spend more time with them, and they were glad to have us come over, so we were traveling, and we'd get together with friends from church up in Long Island, and we travel with them, take tours, and we traveled quite extensively. And having friends over to eat.
Didn't you go on a river? Was it a river cruise? I remember you going. Isn't there a good river cruise that goes through Europe?
Yeah, we went on the Seine, and we went on the Danube, and you know those were all separate ones. We went to the Mediterranean 2 times, and
The Amazon.
Hmm?
Didn't you go to the Amazon?
We went to actually we flew into Lima, Peru, and went into Machu Picchu,
Yeah.
and went around Cape Horn into the Falkland Islands, up into Rio, and flew home from there. And then another time we took a river cruise on the Amazon. So, you know, we really were blessed and able to do that. And it's funny because, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, come on, let's go. We'll take somebody here to go. We get back and he said, oh, you should see where we went. And I said, this is the man that didn't want to go.
Right.
But it really opened our horizons. It really did. So
Yeah.
and in ways it brought us closer together.
Yeah.
You know, we were married 3 years before we started having children, and then you know we traveled with the kids too, and not to Europe or any of that, but we traveled in the United States, and it really was an experience. You know, when we could just take off where we wanted to.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that you say that simply because retirement, and I think the younger generation is moving toward this. I want to do it now, and so, but you know, it takes time, takes money, takes all of that, and you're saying that during that period in your life when you were retired and you were able to travel and spend time together, that actually was like a really good part of your life.
Oh,
that
yeah.
brought you closer.
Mm-hmm. It really was. I have to tell you that I'm a quilter.
Yes.
And Carl and a girlfriend of mine and her husband became friends. And he said there's a little quilt shop in town on the North Shore of Long Island. The woman said, why don't you two I'm ready to retire. Why don't you two, you know, come together and buy. Well, we did. My friend was Edley, or is Edley, I should say, and she and I opened this shop, and her husband and Carl backed us.
Really?
And then we had the business for 7 years, and after a while she said, okay, that's enough. We had night classes and stuff, so it was like taking a lot of time away from
I'm sure.
her. But we were able to do those kind of things because he was, you know, so diligent on saving and investing and everything all those years.
Yeah.
It really helped.
So what would you say your advice would be to people who are thinking about retiring? Maybe someone between 55, 65, how do you feel? Do you feel like it's better to wait or do it while you can? What is your take?
If you can do it while you're younger, I'm not saying, you know, when your savings times and you're setting everything up time, but once you can do it because you don't know what the future holds. Mm-hmm. Life can change in a minute.
Yeah.
So, but you know, it's if you can do it. I'm telling my kids now too. I said, if you can afford it, now's the time to do it. It doesn't have to be a big trip or anything, but even just a weekend or a long weekend away. That, first of all, it brings you a little bit, you're not so much mom and dad anymore. You're Betty and Carl.
Yes.
Mom, you know.
Less responsibility.
Yeah.
Less pressure.
That's right.
Yeah.
We were lucky because the early times that we were traveling, Carl was an only child, so they would come and stay with the kids. Go, you know, they were glad to have them by themselves and spoil them.
Yeah.
But as they got older, you know, we made sure that they were equipped to stay by themselves. They were in their late teens, early 20s. I had neighbors watching out the window to see that they were behaving themselves. It was like a village raised the kids.
It takes a village. It definitely does. Yeah. I only have 2, and I feel like I need a full army to keep up.
Yeah.
But what do you think made, what were some of Carl's, I guess, strategies, you and him both, on saving?
We saved from the time that even if it was $5 a week. That's the way I was raised, and that's the way he was raised. I mean, when we got married, there were no credit cards. You know, on top of the refrigerator, we had a box with so much for the rent, so much for the food and everything else, you know. So, and that was the savings, and you know, we made sure we saved right from the beginning. Yeah. And you know, when our friends were running around to nightclubs and everything else, we'll stay home and have a couple friends in. You know, that's how we saved.
Yeah.
So, but it was, you know, and kids think, you know, you didn't go out or anything. We were just as happy to go to a movie maybe once a month, and we weren't eating out every night either.
Right. How do you, and I know from a generational perspective, you have to see how the world is now.
Yep.
Back then, I mean, cash is like, everything's digital and cards and paying online, and it's harder, I think.
And then it comes up to hit you in the face.
Yeah, because, you know, it's harder to track.
That's right, you know, and that's the bad thing to get into.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you know, it's all how you were raised, I think, sometimes, too. But after a while, you have to start thinking about your future.
When do you think you really, when was the maybe decade in your life, like your 40s or 50s? When did you really start to see, okay, we are really putting money away for retirement?
I would say maybe in our early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we really, you know, we were saving all that time, but we really, you know, saying, okay, this is what we're going to do for the future.
Yes.
And it was important.
Yeah, because I see a lot of people come in and they get really down on themselves because maybe they're in their 30s, they don't feel like they've got enough money saved, or they're in their 40s, they don't have enough money saved. And I encourage them, look, sometimes the majority of your retirement is actually accumulated in the last 2 decades of your work. So your 50s and your 60s.
Right. And
then it can really, but if you think about it, your kids are raised or probably out of the house, your mortgage is probably paid off, you have less needs, you know, you've kind of experienced everything, and you're okay with not figuring everything out, and you usually have a good stable career. It's just easier, I think, to start to really accumulate.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
I agree. You know, it's you start thinking more maturely. You know, not like, oh, I have to have this and I have to have that. Yeah, what for?
Yes.
I know, having sold my house up north, it was, kids said, don't even bother coming up, Mom, because they knew for sure. Oh, maybe I'll keep this, or maybe I'll keep that. It's stuff.
Yes, I know.
Because now the things that I collected and a lot of my friends collected, the kids don't want it.
Right. Yeah, so now what do you do with it?
That's right.
Yeah. I went through a phase in my life where I was collecting, and everything was so sentimental, and I packed all this stuff around a storage unit full of stuff. And then I don't know what changed in me. And then now I'm just a purger. Like, I just don't, the less is more. Less is more.
That's right.
So it's easier to be organized that way, and I think it's a little healthier mentally. But yeah, you can get buried in the stuff. So what was that like, downsizing, right? So that was a big life change, and that happened once Carl passed away. You sold your house.
We went from one house to a larger house while the kids were in the majority of their schooling. We bought by school district. They went to good schools, and we found a good church. And then when, you know, the kids left home and the dog died, we said, this is time to go move on to something. So we moved to a townhouse. And the kids took a lot of the furniture because they were starting married life or out on their own, which was good. And then we bought down here, and we were snowbirds back and forth for a while. And then it got to the big point where, you know, let's spend more time down in Florida. And then Carl got sick, and we couldn't really, you know, do anything. So when he passed away, the kids said, Mom, it's really time to sell the house.
Yeah.
And it was, as much as I love Long Island, it's cold.
Right. And just the maintenance and keeping up and managing and
the-
traveling back and
the
forth.
extra expenses
The expense.
and everything else. So, you know, it was wise. I still have friends that are up there, and they keep saying, if you miss us, come on up, you know, and I
Yeah.
say the same to them down here. But one friend of ours from our church, he says, if you're going to move and you're thinking you're going to do it together before one spouse passes away, because it's very hard to establish a new front.
That's very good advice.
You know,
Yeah.
and
That's very good
she was the
advice.
one that said, if you're going to stay in Florida, find something that you really would like to stay in.
Yeah. So I will say that even on that advice that she just gave, doing it together